I got cast as my best friend's model. If I had to pick a single day that completely changed my life, it wouldn't be the day I graduated from college. It wouldn't be the day I got my first job, either. It wouldn't even be the day I confessed to the man I loved most. It would be the day I happened to spot a model casting poster pinned to the school bulletin board. A poster I really shouldn't have paid any attention to, because in the bottom right corner was the name most familiar to me in the entire world. Zane Carter, the best friend who'd been by my side for 3 years of college, and also the person I'd been quietly in love with for almost that entire time. Male models wanted for graduation project. I read it out loud. A girl walking by glanced at me and laughed, probably because of the look on my face right then. I kept reading the description. Fashion project. Promotional photo shoot. Minimum height requirement. 6 feet. Natural look preferred. No experience necessary. I was about to walk away. Then my eyes caught on the last line. Project lead Zane Carter. I froze, then burst out laughing without meaning to. This idiot's starting another crazy project. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text popped up immediately. Zane. Like he knew I was standing right in front of the poster. Where are you? I replied. In front of the bulletin board. 10 seconds later. Did you see my poster? Looking at it right now. Apply. I laughed out loud. No way. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Then appeared again. I need you. I'm a business major. I know. I don't know how to pose. I know. I've never modeled before. I know. Then why me? This time it took Zane almost a full minute to answer. Because I don't want anyone else. My heart skipped. Just for a second. Then I forced myself to think about it normally. Best friends. Just best friends. That's all this is. I met Zane freshman year. A really strange coincidence. That day I just moved into the dorm. After hauling 3 suitcases of clothes up to the 4th floor to the point of near death, I discovered my room key had vanished. I sat down hard in the hallway, drenched in sweat, tired enough to cry. Right then someone walked up. Lost a fight with your suitcase? I looked up. A tall guy was standing in front of me. Black hoodie, hair a little messy, a coffee cup in his hand. I still remember exactly how the afternoon sun spilled through the window behind him. Like a scene out of a movie. Cheesy as that sounds. But that's exactly how it was. I lost my key, I said. He looked at the 3 suitcases, then at me. First day. Yeah. Gonna survive? Not sure. He burst out laughing. That was the first time I heard Zane laugh. Later, it became my favorite sound in the world. We got close fast. Not the loud, dramatic kind of friendship. The natural kind. So natural that sometimes I forgot there was ever a time I hadn't known Zane. We ate lunch together. Studied together. Watched movies together. Went grocery shopping together. Some weeks we saw each other nearly every day. People at school often thought we were brothers. Some thought we were dating. Every time that came up, Zane would just laugh it off easily. Why does everyone think that? I tried to act casual. Probably because we're always glued together. Sounds like an actual couple. He laughed. I laughed along too. But only I knew how hard that laugh was to fake. Because by the end of sophomore year, I had made the biggest mistake of my life. I'd fallen in love with my best friend. At first I didn't realize it. I just felt irritated whenever someone flirted with Zane. Irritated when he talked about someone too much. Irritated when someone tried to get close to him. I thought it was just the possessiveness that comes with friendship. Until one night, I got a fever. A bad one. Around 2 in the morning, the dorm doorbell rang. I opened the door. Zane was standing there, medicine in hand, a bag of food, and a bottle of water. How did you know I was sick? I asked. I called you 5 times. I fell asleep. Figured. After that he stayed and took care of me until morning. When I woke up again, Zane was asleep, slumped against the edge of the bed. Morning light was spilling over his face. I stared for a long time, a very long time, until I realized a truth that terrified me. I wanted to kiss the person in front of me. Not out of gratitude. Not out of being moved. But because I loved him. Really loved him. In that moment I knew I was done for. And now, 3 years after the day we first met, I was standing in front of Zayn's model casting poster again. I meant to walk away. I really did. I turned around. Taken about 5 steps. My phone buzzed again. A new message. I'm at the studio. I know. Come over.
No.
Just an hour.
No.
30 minutes.
No.
10 minutes. I laughed. This guy never knew when to quit. A minute later, the next message popped up. This time just one line. Everyone's turned me down. I pictured Zayn's pitiful face. And damn it, it always worked. I sighed. Fine. Almost instantly. Knew you'd say yes. I hate you. No, you don't. I really do. Rhett. What? Thanks. I looked at my phone screen, then smiled without meaning to. I had no idea then that the decision to walk into Zayn's studio that day would set off a chain of events nobody could have predicted. A photo shoot. A secret kept hidden for years.
À surprise confession.
And a truth that would make me realize maybe I wasn't the only one who'd been in love for a long, long time. I got to the fashion design department studio around 4 in the afternoon. Calling it a studio sounded pretty professional. But the place used to be an old warehouse the school had renovated. Gray brick walls, high ceilings, clothing racks, sewing machines, and boards covered in sketches everywhere. The smell of new fabric mixed with the smell of coffee. In other words, it was Zayn's world. The moment I stepped through the door, a familiar voice rang out. Finally, you made it. I turned my head, then froze for a few seconds. Zayn was wearing a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, top 2 buttons undone. His hair a little disheveled, like he'd been running around all over the place. There was a smudge of black pencil on the bridge of his nose. I don't know why, but he looked incredibly handsome. The annoying part was Zayn had absolutely no idea. Why are you staring at me like that? He asked. I immediately looked away. No reason. You just stared at me for 5 straight seconds. I was assessing the disaster you call your appearance. Thanks. That wasn't a compliment. I know. Zayn laughed, and my heart skipped another beat. This was the problem. For the past year, I'd been trying so hard to control my feelings, trying to keep the friendship intact, trying to act normal. But whenever I was near Zayn, every effort fell apart. You seriously couldn't find anyone else? I asked, following him inside.
No.
Why not? Because I turned everyone down. I stopped short. Wait a second. What? You just said everyone turned you down. Yeah. Now you're saying you turned them down. Zayn shrugged. Both are true. I hate how you answer things. He laughed, then walked over to a large table. Dozens of design sketches were laid out on it. Photos, notes, fabric swatches. I glanced over them, then paused, a little surprised. This collection is different from anything you've done before. Different how? I hesitated. I don't know how to put it into words. Zayn sat down in a chair. For the first time since I'd arrived, he looked serious. Because this time it's a real story. Meaning, Zayn looked at the sketches in front of him. For a long while. It's a story about someone. Who? There's a guy. I sat down across from him, listening. He always shows up at exactly the right time. Zayn said slowly. Always makes everything better. Sounds like a superhero. I think so too. I'm guessing you like this person. The smile on Zayn's lips faltered slightly. Yeah. I felt my throat go dry. Even though I'd braced myself for this for a long time. Even though I knew this would happen one day. But hearing him actually admit he liked someone, out loud, still hurt. A little. But enough for me to realize. My feelings had never gone away. What's this person's name? I asked. My voice sounded normal. At least I hoped so. Zayn looked at me for a few seconds, then shook his head. I can't say yet. Why not? I'm not brave enough. I laughed. Zayn Carter, scared? Really? Yeah. You're famous all over campus. Yeah. You're good looking. Thanks. You're talented. I know. So what is there to be scared of? This time Zane didn't answer right away. He looked straight into my eyes, so long that I started to feel uncomfortable. Then finally he said, "Scared of losing them." My heart pounded. I don't know why. It was just a simple sentence. But the look in Zane's eyes right then felt strange. Very strange. Okay then. I stood up. Back to business. The modeling? Yeah. Knew you'd agree. I haven't agreed. You're here. I could still leave. You won't. Why not? Because you're too kind-hearted. I hate it when you understand me. I understand that too. I sighed. Fine. Zane shot up out of his chair instantly. Awesome. Don't get too excited. I am excited. I've never modeled. I'll guide you. I've never done a professional shoot. I'll guide you. I'm going to look ridiculous. I won't let that happen. I looked at him, then realized something strange. Zane genuinely believed what he was saying. Not the kind of empty, polite encouragement. Real belief. Like in his eyes, I could do anything. And somehow that made my chest feel warm. An hour later, I started to regret everything.
No.
Zane said, "That pose is too stiff. I'm trying here." I know. Clearly you don't. Lift your chin a little. I did. Not like that. Then how? Just be natural. I have 3 giant lights blasting my face right now. Be natural. I hate you. Try a new line. Laughter rang out across the whole studio. Not just from Zane, but from the whole support crew too. It was strange, really. At first I'd been so tense. But gradually everyone made me feel more comfortable. Especially Zane. Every time I got something wrong, he never seemed annoyed. If anything, he was patient to an almost unbelievable degree. Sometimes I wondered, did the person Zane liked have any idea how lucky they were? The shoot ran into the evening. By the time almost everyone had left, I sat down in the chair by the window, completely worn out. Zane was reviewing the photos on his laptop. Suddenly he went quiet. For a long time. Rhett. What? Come here.
He walked over.
Looked at the screen. The next moment, I couldn't say a word. In the photo was me, but a version of myself I'd never seen before. Confident, grown up, and something else, something different. That doesn't look like me, I said quietly.
No.
Zane replied, I think this is who you actually are. I turned to look at him. Zane was still looking at the photo. His gaze was so gentle that my heart suddenly tightened. Because for the first time in months, a dangerous thought crossed my mind. A thought I'd tried so hard to bury. What would happen if the person Zane liked wasn't anyone else at all? I shut that thought down immediately. Stupid. Completely stupid. Maybe because I'd loved Zane for so long my brain had started conjuring up wishful little fantasies on its own. If the person he liked really was me, there should have been some sign before now. But there wasn't. Or at least I didn't think there was. I'll send you the photos, Zane said, pulling me back to reality. Up to you. It's not up to you. What does that mean? It means I'm sending them. I just said it's up to you. That was official permission. I laughed. You're so annoying. But you've still been hanging around me for 3 years. That's the biggest mistake of my life. Too late now. Zane shoved the laptop into his bag. No returns. When we left the studio, it was almost 10 at night. Campus was quieter than usual. The October night air carried a slight chill. Zane and I walked toward the dorms like we had hundreds of times before. Except this time, somehow, it felt a little different. Maybe because of the story about the person he liked. Or that strange look from earlier. Or maybe I was just overthinking everything. You coming to the next shoot? Zane asked. I thought today was the last one. Nope. There's more. There's more. I've been tricked. You signed a verbal contract. I don't remember that. I remember. I hate lawyers like you. I study fashion. But your soul is a lawyer's. Zane burst out laughing. The sound made me laugh too. Like always. We stopped in front of my dorm building. Thanks, Zane said. I haven't even gotten paid. I'll treat you to pizza. 2 boxes. 1 box. 2. 1.5. Are you actually haggling over pizza with me? I'm a student. So am I. You're taller. What does that have to do with it? Tall people eat less. I burst out laughing. That makes absolutely no sense. But I'm still winning. Fine. I shook my head. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. I turned and started walking inside. But I'd only gone a few steps when I heard Zane's voice behind me. Rhett. I turned back. Yeah. Under the pale yellow light, he was standing there, hands tucked in his pockets, looking at me, like he wanted to say something. But in the end, he just smiled. Sleep well. I went a little blank. Yeah. Sleep well. I had no idea why that look stayed in my head all night long. 3 days later, the second shoot happened. Then the third. The fourth. I started getting used to showing up at the studio, used to wearing the outfits Zane designed, used to hearing him direct me. I even got used to people calling me Zane's model. What was even stranger was that his project was drawing more and more attention. Behind-the-scenes photos started showing up on the school's social media, engagement numbers climbing faster than anyone expected. Some students were starting to recognize me. That was so bizarre, because before this, I'd belonged to the category of people who could vanish into a crowd without anyone noticing. That afternoon, I was sitting in the library when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Olivia. Took me a few seconds to place the name. Olivia was Zane's assistant on the project. I need to tell you something, I replied. What is it? It's about Zane. My heart immediately started pounding. 15 minutes later, I met Olivia at the campus coffee shop. She sat down across from me, looked at me for a few seconds, then sighed. I can't believe you still haven't noticed. Noticed what? You really don't know? I started to feel confused. Know what? Olivia rested her chin on her hand, looking at me like I was a hopeless case. Rhett. What? Zane likes you. I nearly dropped my coffee cup. What? I thought I'd misheard. Olivia calmly took a sip of water. Finally, a reaction.
No.
I shook my head immediately. No way. It's true.
No.
Yes. Olivia. Why do you think this project even exists? I stopped short. What? You really thought Zane couldn't find a model? There are dozens of people in the department alone who wanted to do it. I didn't know what to say. Olivia kept going. Zane turned all of them down. Why? Because from the very beginning, he only ever wanted one person. I felt my mind start to spin.
No.
I repeated again. How can you be so sure? Olivia laughed. Because I work with him all day, every day. Maybe you misread it. Rhett. Maybe it's just friendship. Friends don't spend 8 months designing an entire collection based on one person. I went numb. 8 months. Yeah. Wait. I remembered our conversation that first day. It's a real story. It's about someone. A guy who always shows up at exactly the right time. Always makes everything better. My chest tightened without warning. Olivia looked at me, her voice softer this time. You know the funniest part? What? Zane thinks you're not into guys. I went blank. So he's never dared to say anything. I didn't answer, because the truth was, I'd never dared to say anything either. For over a year. I'd always thought I was the only one hiding my feelings. Turns out, maybe I wasn't. Couldn't sleep that night. I lay there staring at the ceiling for hours, replaying everything. The texts, the calls, the times Zane showed up exactly when I needed him. The looks that lasted a little too long. Moments that had seemed so small at the time. Suddenly they all started to mean something else. A meaning that made my heart race too fast to stay calm. What if Olivia was telling the truth? What if all of this was real? What if the person I'd been in love with all this time was in love with me too? That was the last thought I had before I fell asleep. And I had absolutely no idea that in just 2 more days, everything would change forever, on the night of Zayn's biggest show. 2 days later, I woke up feeling like I was getting ready for some major exam. Except this time, the subject wasn't marketing, economics, or statistics. It was Zayn. Ever since talking with Olivia, my mind had barely had a single quiet minute. I tried to study, couldn't focus. Tried watching a movie, couldn't remember a thing about it. Even playing basketball with a classmate, I missed shot after shot, including the easiest ones. Rhett, my teammate, looked at me. You falling in love or something? The ball nearly slipped out of my hands. What? You've got the exact same look my brother had when he first got a girlfriend. I denied it immediately, but inside, I felt a flicker of unease. If even strangers could tell something was off about me, could Zayn tell too? The final show took place Friday night. It was the biggest event of the year for the fashion design department. A huge crowd, faculty, guests. There were even representatives from a few local fashion brands. When I got backstage, the place was already buzzing like a beehive, people running back and forth, voices calling out nonstop. In the middle of all that chaos, I spotted Zayn immediately. I don't know why this always happened. No matter where I was, my eyes always found him first. Zayn was checking the lineup. You made it. He looked up, smiled. That familiar smile made me think of Olivia's words again. Instantly. Zayn likes you. Just one sentence. But from that point on, everything felt different. I made it. I tried to keep my voice normal. Nervous. Yeah. You. A lot. I thought Zayn Carter didn't get scared of anything. I only don't get scared of small things. So today's a big thing? His gaze shifted slightly. Very big. My heart pounded for no reason I could explain. An hour before the show started, I was changing into my outfit when Olivia walked over. She glanced around, confirmed no one was nearby, then leaned in close. Brace yourself. I blinked, confused. For what? Olivia gave me a knowing smile. I'm not allowed to say. Olivia, just trust me. You're worrying me. That's exactly the point. She walked off after that, leaving me with 100 questions in my head. The show started at 7 that evening. The stage lights came up. Music filled the hall. Model after model walked out. Zayn's collection was placed last, which meant it was the most anticipated part. When the MC announced his name, the whole hall erupted in applause. I stood behind the curtain. I could see Zayn far off to the side. He took a deep breath. He looked far more nervous than usual. It was my turn to go on. I walked out onto the stage. The lights hit me immediately. Hundreds of eyes turned my way. The first time I'd done a shoot, I'd been incredibly tense. But now that feeling had almost completely disappeared, because I knew that somewhere backstage Zayn was watching. And strangely enough, that alone was enough to make me feel confident. The collection ended to thunderous applause, louder than any segment before it. I saw faculty members stand up. Some of the guests did too. Smiles appeared on every single member of the team. We'd done it. But what surprised me was that the show wasn't over yet. The MC walked back onto the stage. Please bear with us for a few more minutes. I frowned slightly. This wasn't on the schedule. Murmurs rippled through the hall. Right then, a large screen lit up behind the stage. The first photo appeared. It was me, freshman year, sitting in the middle of the dorm hallway with 3 suitcases. My eyes went wide. What the? That was the day I first met Zayn. Why did he have this photo? The next picture came up. Me dozing off in the library. Then the next one. Me playing basketball. Then eating pizza. Then laughing. Then talking. All of them ordinary moments. Moments I didn't even remember myself. But someone had captured every single one of them. For years. The hall started to murmur. I stood frozen, unable to look away from the screen. Then finally a voice came through the sound system. A voice I could recognize anywhere. It was Zayn. 3 years ago, The whole hall went silent. I met a guy sitting in the middle of a hallway looking like he was about to cry because he'd lost his room key. Laughter rippled through the crowd. I couldn't manage to laugh, though, because my heart was pounding at a terrifying pace. I thought I'd just help him out that one time and that would be it. Zane's voice continued. But somehow, he became the most important person in my life. I heard someone in the front row take a sharp breath. Maybe I wasn't the only one who understood what was happening. Over the past 3 years, Zane said, I kept trying to find the right moment to say this. I waited until I felt brave enough. I waited until I felt confident enough. I waited until I wasn't scared anymore. His voice trembled slightly. Turns out I was never going to stop being scared. I turned my head, searching, and finally I found him. Zane was standing in the middle of the stage, under the lights, among hundreds of people. His eyes locked on one direction only, me. I don't know what the future holds, he said. I don't know if we'll even live in the same city after graduation. I don't know how life is going to change. But there's one thing I know for certain. Zane smiled, a smile so beautiful it made my eyes sting. I love you. A wave of stunned gasps swept through the hall, but I could barely hear any of it anymore. Because in that exact moment, I realized something. For over a year, I'd imagined countless times how I'd react if this day ever actually came. I thought I'd be shocked, flustered, wouldn't know what to do. But the truth was, the only thing I wanted to do right then was run to that man's side. I don't remember exactly when I started running. Maybe the moment Zane said those 3 words, or maybe even earlier, the moment I saw the hundreds of photos on the screen. Moments that had seemed meaningless. Ordinary days. Days I thought no one had noticed. But it turned out someone had always been watching. Someone had always remembered. Someone had always treasured every small thing about me. Applause rang out across the hall. Whistling, cheering, but all of it felt distant. I could only see Zane, and he could only see me. 3 years of friendship. Over a year of unrequited love. Hundreds of missed chances. Thousands of moments of hesitation. The distance between us was finally being closed. When I walked up onto the stage, Zane looked even more nervous than during the show itself. That made me laugh. I thought you'd prepared for this, I said. What? For this part? I prepared to confess. Zane replied. Not for you actually walking over here. I laughed hard, tears nearly spilling over. This idiot. Even in the middle of confessing, he could still make me laugh. So, Zane took a deep breath, clearly trying to stay calm. This is the part where I'm supposed to say something cool, right? I think so. But my mind's completely blank. That makes sense. I hate you.
No.
I shook my head. That's definitely not true. The crowd let out delighted OS instantly. I heard someone down below shout, Say it. The whole hall burst out laughing. Even Zane couldn't help laughing. But then he looked at me again. His gaze softened, like there was no one else around at all. Just the 2 of us. Rhett. His voice was quieter now. I love you. This time there was no microphone, no stage, no audience. Just words meant only for me. And damn it, I'd waited far too long for that. I know, I answered. Zane blinked. What? I know. Since when did you know? About 2 days ago. Olivia. Olivia. We said it at the same time, then both burst out laughing. I'm firing her, Zane muttered. I think you're going to give her a raise. That's also true. I love her right now. I don't. The hall laughed again, but then Zane suddenly turned serious. Once more. So, he swallowed. Do I get an answer? That moment had finally arrived. The moment I'd imagined hundreds of times over the past year. There were nights I'd lain awake staring at the ceiling thinking about it. Days I'd told myself not to hope, not to dream, not to imagine the impossible. And now, it was actually happening. I took another step forward, stood right in front of Zane, close enough to see the light reflecting in his gray-blue eyes. Then I smiled. Took you long enough. Zayn looked confused. What? To realize I love you too. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. Zayn froze completely. I'd never seen him like that before. The guy who was always confident, always quick-witted, always had an answer for everything, now looked like he'd forgotten how to think entirely. Wait, he said. You mean? I mean I love you. Since when? I'm not sure. Since last year. Maybe. The year before? I don't think so. Since freshman year? Don't get greedy. Zayn laughed loudly, the happiest smile I'd ever seen. Then, to the cheers of the entire hall, he pulled me into a tight hug. I heard the applause, the cheering, but what I felt most clearly was Zayn's heartbeat, racing just as fast as mine, and that made me feel relieved. Turns out I wasn't the only one whose heart was pounding. That night, after the show ended, we became the hottest topic on campus. My phone nearly exploded. Texts from friends, from classmates, from people I didn't even know. Even my mom called. How did you find out so fast? I asked. It's all over the internet already. Mom replied. That speed is terrifying. So what do you think? I felt a little anxious. Even though I knew my family had always been open-minded. This was still the first time I'd ever made a relationship public like this. On the other end of the line, Mom was quiet for a few seconds, then said, I think you sound happy. I went still. I don't care who it is. Mom continued, as long as they treat you well. I smiled without meaning to. He's really good to me. Good. You're going to like him. I can't wait to meet him. After that call, I sat alone in my dorm room, looking at my phone screen. A new text popped up. From Zayn. Come downstairs. I frowned. This late? Come on. Why? Because I miss my boyfriend. My heart immediately kicked into overdrive. Boyfriend. Just 2 words. But it made me grin like an idiot. 5 minutes later, I went down to the lobby. The moment I stepped outside, I saw Zayn standing under the tree in front of the dorm. 2 pizza boxes in his hands. I burst out laughing. Are you serious right now? I made a promise. What promise? To pay my model. From 3 weeks ago? I keep my word.
I walked over.
Took one of the boxes. We sat down on the front steps, like we had hundreds of times before, except for one thing. This time, when my hand accidentally brushed against Zayn's, neither of us pulled away. The atmosphere between us was still familiar, still easy, still natural, but now there was something new there too, something that made my heart feel weightless. I looked at Zayn. He looked back at me. Then we both burst out laughing. For no reason at all. Just because we were so happy. But neither Zayn nor I knew yet that falling in love was only the beginning. Because a year later, when we graduated college and stepped out into the real world, we would face the biggest challenge since the day we'd first met.